Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Storytime with Nonie and Finnegan and my dog Joe. His name is Joe. Does that remind you of anything? We've been having a story about a young man in the Bible, which is a true story, whose name is Joseph. That's right. And so, I don't know if Joe's going to be able to come and sit down. Come here, Joe. Can you come and sit? He wants to play. Well, at any rate, you need to be quiet, Joe. Oh dear. Joe, sit. Good boy. Here's a cookie for you. Maybe you boys and girls want to go get a snack while you listen to the story today about Joseph. So, we don't really know exactly how Joseph felt because the Bible doesn't tell us exactly how he felt. It just told us what happened in his life. But you know, remember how in our story of Much Afraid we said our feelings can go from being happy one moment to being really sad or afraid the next moment or angry. And I'm sure Joseph must have experienced some feelings Finnegan like that. Is going to wear our God's eyes glasses today, if we can make them stay on him. Because remember how important it is to see through God's eyes the things that happen in our lives? There we go. Gonna stay on there? Joseph is the boy in our story that we've been talking about. Do you remember what happened to him? He was his father's favorite son, and the brothers got angry and jealous, and they sold him to some traders who took him to a whole new country, and that's where our story is going to begin today. But before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about feelings. You know, when bad things happen to us, we generally react or feel certain ways. God made us with feelings. Feelings are not right or wrong. They are just feelings. It's what we do with them that makes them right or wrong. And I'm sure that Joseph, in our story, had a lot of feelings that were not good feelings. Feelings of fear, feelings of sorrow and suffering as he thought he would never be able to see his parents again, suffering as he was treated as a slave. None of this was fair. There are several ways we can respond, though. We can say, Jesus, I choose to trust you in this. That's when we have God's eyes. We can do that. Like Much Afraid did in our story of Much Afraid. She chose to trust Jesus, didn't she? Well, sometimes when something bad happens, I get angry. And I don't want to have to go through this thing. And I might get angry at somebody else who's done something wrong to me. And I think I'm just not going to ever forgive them. But that's not God's way. That makes me angry and bitter. And then I end up acting just like Joseph's brothers did. We don't want to be like that. No. We want to be loving and kind. Joseph must have known God. He must have already been to the high places at one point because he knew he could trust God. He had that seed of love that God had planted in his heart. As he went along this journey, I know he knew God and he trusted God. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do and endure and go through all the things that he went through. And you know, sometimes we just get sad and depressed when things happen and we just want to curl up in a corner and we want to sleep all the time. We're just sad all the time. We don't want to talk to people or whatever it may be. But you know, that's not God's way either. We can't keep moving on our journey if we just won't do things God's way. And so, boys and girls, no matter how you feel, remember that you can trust God just like Joseph did. So we already talked about how Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, where he was taken to a whole other country that was called Egypt, where the pyramids are. Maybe you've heard about this country, Egypt, where they have pyramids. Maybe you even studied them in school. Well, this happened a long time ago. When they got to Egypt, Joseph was sold to a man by the name of Potiphar. Potiphar was a very wealthy man. And Joseph became his slave. Potiphar owned Joseph. Can you imagine what that would be like? To be owned by somebody, to be their slave. That would mean that if they told you to do something, you had to do it right now. It wouldn't matter how you felt about it or what you wanted to do. You couldn't say, "Just a minute, Mom." No. If the master said, "You, Joseph, I want you to go right now and bring in firewood," oh, you had to drop what you were doing and go bring in firewood right then. No excuses. Well, Joseph was very responsible. He worked so hard for Potiphar. You know, he could have felt sorry for himself. He could have said, "Oh, poor me, I don't deserve this to be a slave. I'm the favored son." And he could have just, given up, and he would have ended up in a very bad place if he would do that. But because he knew God wanted him to do the very best he could no matter what situation he was in, and Joseph did exactly that. And it doesn't even tell us if he was angry with his brothers or not. If he was, I think he didn't let that anger turn him into a bitter person. I think that he must have chosen to forgive them. Well, Joseph worked so hard for Potiphar that he made Potiphar an even richer man. He handled his business so well that Potiphar turned all of his household business over to Joseph. Joseph had a lot of responsibility, and all the other slaves had to now obey Joseph. Well, Potiphar also had a wife. Potiphar's wife liked Joseph. And I don't think she really liked him. I think she selfishly liked him. Because a real friend isn't going to ask you to do things that are wrong. But Potiphar's wife was trying to make Joseph do something that was evil, that would hurt her husband, that would hurt Joseph's master. And Joseph said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And every day she tried to talk Joseph into doing this terrible sin, this terrible thing. And Joseph kept saying, "No, no." Well, one day, Potiphar's wife tempted him. Joseph said no, and she grabbed his coat, and he turned around and ran out of there as fast as he could. Well, this made Potiphar's wife so angry that she called the other servants and she said, "Joseph tried to hurt me. He came in here, I grabbed his coat when I screamed, and he ran away, but he was trying to hurt me." And they believed her. And when Potiphar came home, Potiphar's wife told him the very same thing. She said, "Joseph tried to hurt me. He came into my room and I screamed, and he turned around and he left his coat here." Well, Potiphar was so angry he couldn't believe that his trusted servant, his trusted slave, would do this terrible thing to him. And so he had Joseph arrested and sent to prison. This would be another time where Joseph did not deserve to be treated this way. He hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, he had done it exactly right. He had done exactly what God wanted him to do. But he ended up in jail. Well, there again, instead of feeling sorry for himself or being angry, sometimes when we get angry, we just lash out at other people and we hit and we do all kinds of violent things that ends up being, it ends us up in an even worse place inside. Well, Joseph didn't do that. He turned around and he started looking for ways that he could help the people in the jail. And the jailer began to trust Joseph. And he turned the prison over to Joseph so that Joseph was running the prison. This was just a fantastic thing, boys and girls, because Joseph was on a journey in a situation after situation that was not what he wanted. He couldn't understand how this could possibly be God's plan but he did have God's eyes. He did know that he could trust God, and I believe he did choose to trust God because he knew God and had God's love in his heart and was able to pour love out on those people who had hurt him and in those situations where he didn't even deserve to be. And next week we're going to have another chapter in the life of Joseph. And so, boys and girls, I love you. Bye-bye.